I was a man who believed he could change the world. Not just build a car, but deliver the future we all wanted to see. My name was John DeLorean, and my DMC-12 was to become an icon of innovation, a symbol of a new era. But no one prepared me for the fact that the legend I was creating would become my curse. Everyone saw only the shiny body, the gleam of the headlights, and the sound of the engine, which spoke of speed and freedom. But behind this beautiful exterior was a story that no one wanted to notice. A story of betrayal, contempt, and a fall that began when I was just beginning to conquer the peaks. How do you get out of the shadow of your own fame when the loudest sound isn't the roar of an engine, but the rustle of accusations and loud newspaper headlines? This is not just a story about a car. It's a story about me, a person who wanted to fly, but found himself on the edge of an abyss. I have always been a person who lived outside the usual framework. From a young age, I saw the world not as it was, but as it could be. My life is not just a story about cars. It is the story of a dream that flashed bright and fast, just like my destiny. The story of the DMC-12, the car that became my child, my masterpiece, my greatest pride, and my worst nightmare. Growing up, I always loved engineering. I remember taking apart motorcycles as a teenager to understand their essence, and putting them back together, improving the parts. To me, a car is not just metal and nuts. It is an opportunity to implement ideas that change the way we move around the world. When I got into the automotive industry, I was young, ambitious, with a head full of bold ideas. After several years of working for large corporations, I felt it was time to create something of my own. Something that would stand out from the crowd. Something that would not just be another car on the market, but a real breakthrough. I dreamed of creating a car that combines speed, style, and technology that you won't see anywhere else. This dream began to take shape in my head back in the 1970s. The world was changing rapidly, technology was developing, and I saw an opportunity in this. I wanted to create a sports car with a unique design, one that everyone who saw it would understand. This is not just a car. This is a symbol of the future, and I believed that I could do it. But dreams are one thing, reality is another. To make it happen, you needed money, support, and a team of like-minded people. Starting from scratch in an industry already filled with giants was like jumping into the abyss without insurance. I assembled a team of talented engineers and designers, and we began work on what would become the DMC-12. The name sounds simple, but each letter is a story of struggle and faith. DeLorean Motor Company. We set ourselves the goal of creating something unique, new, and bold. The design was truly revolutionary, a stainless steel body that gleamed in the sun, doors that opened upward like wings. This was no ordinary car. It was a work of art, a car that challenged tradition. I remember the day we first showed the prototype. It was an incredible feeling, like you were lifting the whole world. People were watching in awe, and, to be honest, I was proud of every detail. It wasn't just a car, it was my fire, my soul. But it was also difficult. Financial difficulties were constant and unpredictable. I invested all my resources and faith in the project. Investors came and then refused. Every day we had to fight to prove that our car was worth a chance. After all, at that time the technologies and design that we offered seemed too bold, too future for the conservative automotive world. But the hardest thing for me was balancing ambition and reality. When you do something new, you will always be criticized because people are afraid of change. I felt pressure every day, but it didn't scare me. On the contrary, it gave me strength. The DMC-12 started to gain attention, and it was like the beginning of a great journey. Every detail, every element was carefully thought out, from the aerodynamics to the engine. My team worked, not sleeping at night, believing in a common goal. I often thought, this car will become not just a product, but a symbol of a new outlook on life. Fast, bold, unpredictable. A car that conquers not only the roads, but also hearts. And it was then, at this moment, when we stood on the threshold of glory, that I felt the strongest bitter taste, because I knew that the big games were just beginning. That behind the shine of metal and applause, a shadow could hide that would destroy everything we had worked so hard to build. This was my triumph and my challenge. My dream, born in a heart that burned with faith and the desire to change the world. After the DMC-12 hit the market, I felt like our project was gaining momentum. But it wasn't just a commercial achievement, it was something much more. We didn't just create a car, we created a legend that began to take on a life of its own. Everyone around me was talking about innovation, design, how futuristic our car looked. I saw people looking at the DMC-12 with admiration, and it filled me with pride. But at the same time, I was starting to feel something else, a sense that my role in this story was getting smaller and smaller. I remember the day Back to the Future came out. When the DMC-12 appeared on the screen, my creation, my symbol, I felt like it was something incredible. The car that my team and I had spent years creating had become part of culture, a dream for millions. But this fame had its price. More and more, I felt that the machine was loved more than I, the man behind it. People saw the shine and the speed, but they didn't see the struggle that lay behind every weld, behind every night watch spent in the shops. While the DMC-12 became an icon, my name slowly faded into obscurity, which would have been fine, if not for the fact that the world I was trying to build started to change in a completely different way than I had expected. At first, there were minor troubles, delivery delays, production problems. But then more serious challenges followed. Criticism from those who didn't believe in us, harsh words from competitors, investors who were losing patience. And that's when the doubts set in, not in the car, but in myself. I began to ask myself, can I hold on to this glory? Is my triumph turning into a trap? The constant pressure, the sleepless nights, the feeling that everyone around me wanted to stop me. Even as the car became world famous, I felt like my control was slipping away. My dream had become too big to hold in my hands. I saw journalists questioning my decisions, politicians and competitors watching my every move. This wasn't just business, it was survival. And yet, when you create something so bright and new, it can't help but arouse envy and fear. I began to understand that success is not only about applause, but also about the shadows it casts. And the biggest shadow fell on me. But I wasn't going to give up. I believed that I could get out of this darkness, that my story wasn't over yet. It wasn't over yet. I always knew that the path of an innovator was not a straight line, but a series of hills and valleys. But I never imagined that my worst battles would begin not with competitors, but with the people who were supposed to support me. Financial difficulties came unexpectedly, like cold rain on a hot day. We worked at the limit of our capabilities, trying to maintain production, pay employees, fulfill promises to investors. But there was still not enough money. The feeling that I was standing on a sinking ship, but I could not save it, became my constant companion. And then the accusations began. Corruption, fraud, conspiracy, words that came like shots in the back. I was accused of financial crimes, crimes I didn't commit. I felt the trust around me dissolve. The people I considered my allies begin to turn against me. Every day brought new challenges. Sudden inspections, tense meetings, threats. I saw my company begin to fall apart, and my name mercilessly tarnished. This wasn't just business. It was a battle for my reputation, for my honor. I began to doubt. Was this path worth the price? Is it possible to create something real when all around you are deceit and betrayal? But I knew that giving up would mean admitting defeat, which I was not ready to accept. The pressure was building. The feeling that every step forward was followed by 2 steps back. I saw the team falling apart, the investors refusing to believe. And yet, I tried to hold on, because faith was the last thing I had left. But that was only part of the bigger problems. The most terrible blows lay ahead. I didn't just lose control of my company. I lost control of my own life. When the FBI began investigating, I realized I had been knocked off the highest pedestal, where I had once been held as a genius, and now as a criminal. It was like a scene from a bad movie, but it was reality. Evidence, words, testimonies began to be gathered against me, many of which were fabricated or twisted. I felt circles forming around me, tightening like a trap in which I could no longer breathe. I became more than just a target of investigation. I became a symbol of what everyone feared, the failure of the American dream, the triumph of bureaucracy over innovation. And even my friends turned away because they were afraid of being tainted. I remember sitting in cramped interrogation rooms, staring into the eyes of FBI officers who asked questions with suspicion and distrust. They had already decided my fate. I was accused of conspiracy, of fraud, of things I never did. But the evidence against me was gathered quickly and ruthlessly. In that moment, I felt the deepest betrayal, not just from the system, but from the people I thought were close to me. And what hurt the most was that my car, the DMC-12, had become the shadow of my downfall. The car that had once symbolized hope and innovation was now associated with scandal and failure. But even when the world around me was crumbling, I didn't give up. I knew that if I fell, I would fall with my truth. I fought to the last, even when all the doors slammed behind me. It was a lesson, the cruelest and most valuable of my life. It turned out that even the greatest dreams can be shattered if they are tried to be broken from within. The story of my downfall is not just a story of failure. It is a story about how easily a person can become a victim of the system, about how difficult it is to maintain your identity when the whole world is against you. I have lived a life full of ups and downs, triumphs and disappointments, faith and betrayal. And now, looking back, I understand one important thing. True strength is not in fame or money, but in not breaking down when the world tries to break you. My story is not just a story about a car and a business. It is the story of a man who dreamed and fought for his dream until the very end. I didn't build the DMC-12 to become rich or famous. I built it because I believed in the future, in the fact that the world could be changed for the better. And this belief is the most valuable thing I have left. Of course, I regret many things. How easily I trusted, how close people turned away in the most difficult times, how my project dragged on in the dust of scandals and betrayals. But I don't regret going this way, because without struggle there is no real growth. If I could give advice to those listening to my story, it would be this. Believe in your truth and don't let the world define who you are. Success can come quickly and brilliantly, but it is in the moments when everything around you falls apart that true strength is seen. Don't be afraid of falls. They are an integral part of the journey. But never give up, even when all the doors are closing. Because behind every dark cloud there is always light. My car, the DMC-12, lives on in the hearts of people around the world today, not just as a car, but as a symbol of a dream that became a legend. And I am proud to have been its creator. Life has taught me one thing. Fame and money are temporary, but honor and self-belief are what last forever. So remember, create, fight, dream, and don't let anyone destroy your story.